Hey, what's up folks? Jesse here with Southern Reels Fishing, and in this video I'm going to be comparing my brand new 2019 Hobie Outback, which I just picked up the other day, to a 2017 model Hobie, which I've owned about a year now. This is an Outback model as well. And off in the background over there I have a 2015 model Perangler 14 that I've actually owned for several years. And we're going to kind of look at the differences mainly between these two, and also kind of bounce it off what we see on the Pro Angler over there in the background. So, oh yeah, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please take some time to check it out. Put a lot of work into these videos, and if you enjoy this video, check out some of my other stuff, and if you like it, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Thanks. All right, folks, let's get right into this. What I have done is I have them all sitting here side by side, and I have lined up the seating positions on all three models, where they're all pretty much the same as far as where you sit in the kayak, which is what I think is the most important aspect of it. Right away from the get-go, I can notice a huge difference in storage area. If you just look at it, basically from this angle, you can see the old versus the new, massive difference. And honestly, the new Outback storage capacity, looking at it, is similar to what you see in the Pro Angler 14 in the background. It kind of struck me as being so similar that I actually got a tape measure out and pulled measurements on both to kind of see what the difference is. And what I came up with was the Pro Angler has 840 square inches of storage roughly. The Outback, 2019 Outback, has roughly 790 square inches of storage, which is pretty impressive. That's a lot of storage, almost the same as a Pro Angler in the back of it. Now the Pro Angler storage is a little bit more square, to where the Outback, of course, is a little bit narrower, but is actually longer. So that's pretty cool. Now to compare that to the old Outback, you can look at it and see this is much smaller of an area. I did the math on that one, and it's actually 410 square inches is what we have right in here. So the new Outback has almost double the storage capacity behind the seat of the older Outback. So that's a pretty big improvement right there. Definitely the first thing I wanted to cover. So, all right, next thing I wanted to cover after the storage area is the back of the actual kayak behind the storage area. If you look at the Outback, you'll notice compared to the new one, this one here is much shorter. This, of course, is the older model. This is the newer model here. And it literally is about 6 to 8 inches in difference in length in the back of the kayak. Actually, the new Outback is actually very similar to the Pro Angler 14 off in the distance over there as far as the length of the tail. There's only about 2 inches difference there. So basically this kayak right here is almost a carbon copy of a Pro Angler 14 in the rear of the kayak, other than the mods they had to make for, you know, the difference in the actual width of the hull. So that's pretty neat that they took one of the best qualities of the Pro Angler, which is the storage, and adapted that over to the new 2019 Outback. All right, folks, next thing I wanted to talk about is the seat of the two kayaks and the differences there, since I have them here side by side. The back of the seat look very similar. Actually, I think they're pretty much the same part. I do see a difference in the bottom. Of course, they advertised the new seat over here to be 1.5 inches wider, and let's check that. If I pull across the actual seating area on this one, I got 19.5 inches. If I check this one over here, I've got 18 inches. So it definitely is 1.5 inches wider. But when I sat in this seat earlier today, it felt different to me, like it was shorter. So I wanted to check that as well, and it does visibly look shorter. I checked it from the back here to the front of the seat right here is 12 inches on the new one. And the old Outback, from the back to the front, we got 13.5 inches. So they made the seat 1.5 inches wider, but they shrunk the depth of it 1.5 inches. And it's a noticeable feeling when you actually sit in the seat. Somewhat so that I'm beginning to wonder if my seat out of this one will fit into that one, because I think I like that one better. But I will at least take this one out and give it a shot and see how it feels. Anyway, wanted to mention that as well. All right, folks, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about is the actual operator area of the kayak, basically where you sit. And what we got over here between these rails is about 19 inches on average of leg room. And if we measure this one over here and about the same height and area, we've got roughly 21 inches of actual leg room in the old Outback. Which kind of blows me away, because I would think that the new one would have more leg room, since the overall hull width, this one at the very top is 31 inches, and this one here is 32 inches roughly. So this one is actually 1 inch wider, but you have less upper leg room area right here at the top where your legs would be. But if you measure the bottom, we got 18 inches on this one of actual floor room. If you measure the older Outback, you only have 16 inches of actual flat floor room. So the older Outback, the sides of it basically go in at much more of an angle compared to this newer one here where they're pretty much straight down. There's actually more standing room in the newer Outback, and I'm curious to see what that feels like when you're out on the water. But there's actually more relaxed leg room, like if you're sitting with your legs open just relaxing on the older Outback. So once again, an interesting change. All right, moving forward, now we're up in the front nose area, and I'm compared the two hatches. They said that the new one seemed to be a little bit smaller, and I believe it is, but we're gonna measure real quick just to make sure. So let's open this up. Front to back, we got 13.5 inches. On the old one over here, we have 13.5 inches. So depth is actually the same. Now width, I'm going at the widest area of it. On the new one, we have about 11.25 inches. On the older Outback, we have about 12.25 inches. So the hatch area is actually the same depth, but it's 1 inch narrower on the new Hobie. Not too big of a deal, I don't think. Now, as far as the depth of the hatch, measuring from the very bottom part of the kayak to the top, we got about 11 inches on the new one. And on the old one, we have about 11.25, so not much difference there. All right, now from the front of the hatch to the front of the kayak, we're running roughly 18.5 inches. On this one over here, we are running about 22 inches. So there's a difference there. The nose of this one is actually a little bit longer, by about 3 inches or so than the old kayak. Not too big of a deal, I don't think. All right, folks, now what I wanted to demonstrate is the difference in the height of the actual hull of the kayaks. Now both of these are sitting on tables of the same height, and I've lined the lens of the camera here up with exactly the top of this hull, so you can see the difference in the actual height of the hull of the two kayaks. And if you notice, this one here, the old 2017, sits noticeably higher. And if you actually pull a tape measure on that from the floor up to the top of the hull, on the new one we're around 42 inches, and roughly the same area on the old kayak, we're at like 43.5 inches. And to be honest with you, that kind of translates right on the water from what I've seen, because I had my 2017 out this past weekend with a gentleman I met that had a brand new 2019 on the water, and we fished together most of the day, and I was able to actually see the difference in how they rode in the water. And I can tell you that the new Outback sits and rides very similar to how it's sitting on this table right here, very straight. And if you look on their website, all the pictures they show of people fishing in it, that's kind of how it sits in the water, very straight like that. Where the older Outback over here, it always kind of rode nose high. The rear set kind of low. And what we did notice as well is that the water line on a new kayak was much higher on the nose of it, basically the entry point, compared to the 2017, and that the slight chop that we were in out on the water, a bit more of it was actually coming over the nose of the kayak. And he said himself that he felt that the new 2019 in rougher water would probably be a wetter ride than the old 2017 over here, just because of how it rides and how the nose of it's shaped. And that was one of the best qualities of the older model Outback, was its ability to handle rough water. It did have hull slap, which was kind of a pain, but it worries me, and until I actually get this out and try it myself, I'm curious to see what the outcome of that's going to be. And I really hope that they didn't make it too front heavy to where the nose of it rides too low and actually cuts into the waves too much to where the water is actually washing over and getting into the cockpit area and basically getting your area wet, where that doesn't happen in the older models. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see how it plays out. So next big change, of course, the twist and stow rudder. A little bit of a headache till you get used to it. It took some time out on the water, you know, getting used to how to handle it, get it up and down effectively. I do like the fact that they went to the drop down style rudder under here that's similar to the pro angler that you see in the background. Although I do not like the fact that when it's up, it's the lowest point on the back of the kayak, and when you go to lift this kayak to put it in the back of a truck, this thing hits the ground. And I think it's kind of like a oh crap moment when they designed this thing and they realized they had to do something about that. So that's why they give you this stupid little puck design here that you got to clip on the back of the kayak. I really don't think this is a great design. I think this is them trying to get around an issue. I won't be surprised if they redesign the back of this kayak in a year or two and fix that, and probably make it a lot more like the pro angler. Because if you notice on the pro angler, when their rudder's up, it's actually tucked up into the hull. You're going to ride on this before you ever hit your rudder. So it wouldn't surprise me if they actually adapt the Outback over to a design like that eventually. So definitely something I wanted to mention. I'm excited to get this thing rigged. I hope my feedback on the kayak and kind of comparing these side by side and even comparing it with the Pro Angler will maybe give you a little bit of insight as far as what's going to be the right kayak for you. I will be doing an on the water test of it as soon as I can. I'm actually taking this one fishing again this weekend. While I'm finishing rigging that one, I'll probably get it out and do some trout fishing here soon. So anyway, that's what I got to offer. Hope you guys enjoy it. See you next time. Thanks.